Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Owen, and you are watching the Political Vigilante. We got shows this week. Thursday, Portland, Oregon with Ron Placone, July 28th. Friday, July 29th in Seattle, Washington. Saturday, July 30th in Vancouver, Canada. Me and Ron Placone doing all these three cities. Go to grahamelwood.com. It's a fun night. You're in a room full of people that all think the same way politically, and we all need to laugh because there's some tough stuff out there. You know, the news isn't always great, and so we need to get together and not feel alone. It's easy to feel alone looking at our computers or our phones or whatever and think we're all isolated. So that's why it's good to come out to a show. So then another great way to support the show is go to patreon.com/GrahamElwood and do what Terry T did. She submitted me this story, or maybe this is a man, I don't know. Terry T sent this story to me about an unhoused organizer that died because the Tempe, Arizona police neglected. And, you know, this is what we do to the homeless in America, the richest country in the history of the world. Rather than give them housing and treat them with dignity, we treat them like criminals, and we brutalize people that are just asking for the basic right of dignity of housing. That's what we do in America. We got money for war. We just sent $60 billion to Ukraine, but we can't even help our own citizens. And Ukraine is a war we've helped push Russia into. I'm not apologizing or making excuses. I don't like Putin. I don't like his invasion. I think it's wrong, but we pushed this into this. In 1998, we started expanding NATO, getting country, and NATO started moving east. And Russia was like, we don't like this. And Putin, since he's been in power, which is since the beginning of 2000, I believe, he's been like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And there's no way America would let one single Russian base on the Canadian border or Mexico border. We wouldn't allow it. We would go absolutely insane. And yet we've surrounded Russia with bases. So I just want to, like, the constant warmongering, but we do we push for war. We're bombing whatever, 6, 7 countries right now. I can't even keep track. We outspend the next 12 countries combined on military. And domestically, we do the same thing. Police departments in just about every major American city, regardless of whether it's in a blue city or red state, blue state, they get all this money. And we don't spend money on social programs. That's what defund the police means. When people are like, oh, you know, defund the police, we're just going to give the cops squirt guns. No. Like in Los Angeles, where I live, LAPD gets 54% of the city's operating budget. Right? $3.1 billion LAPD gets. Some of that money needs to go to build housing for the homeless, not shelters, homes, apartments, where they can live and get dignity and get job training and get drug treatment or whatever they're dealing with. But no, we just spend money on militarized weaponry and stuff like that. And when that happens, then people get killed. And this is what happened in Arizona, unfortunately. Sean Madrox Bickings. And so I just want, this is sent to me by Terry T, and I just wanted to read the excerpt from this, okay? I'm going down. Sean Bickings shouted from the water of Tempe Town Lake, struggling to stay afloat. No, you're not, an officer from the Tempe Police Department condescendingly replied. So he's in this lake drowning. I'm drowning. I'm going to drown. And the cop said, no, you're not. Okay, I'm not jumping in after you, another officer said. Moments later, Bickings was dead. Because cops do this. Oh, I don't want to get my suit wet. Your job is to serve and protect. Sean Madrox Bickings was a beloved figure in his community, an unhoused person, and was well known by his neighbors throughout Tempe, Arizona for his warmth and kindness, as well as his unwavering advocacy for the betterment of unhoused people in the city. Oh, what a troublemaker. Just wants dignity and housing? You're trying to tell me that a country that currently, right now, the democratically controlled Congress is drafting the new war budget that's going to be over $800 billion. Each year, each president, regardless of Republican or Democrat, gets a bipartisan increase every year. Liz Warren and all these Democrats, oh, Mr. Trump was so awful when Trump was president. They gave him money for war. All the Republicans that hate Joe Biden, they give Joe Biden money for war. Everybody gives the president money for war. They gave it to Obama. They gave it to Bush. We've been doing this for 20 years. But we don't have money so people can live in dignity. That's offensive to me. And this has got to be, if George Washington and them were alive, they would be offended at this. I don't know. Maybe they wouldn't. They were rich white guys that owned slaves, so maybe they didn't give a shit either. I don't know. But on May 28th, his life was tragically cut short due to the provocation and carelessness of the Tempe Police Department. The incident came in the midst of a tense period for Tempe, striving to serve the economic interests that seek to turn the city into a desert oasis for real estate developers and others with money. Tempe's government often finds itself at odds with its own residents. Now, this is true in a lot of cities, and Phoenix, Tempe is a suburb of Phoenix, and is no different. Tempe, Arizona is also where the Arizona State University is. So this is the issue. And this is a big problem in Arizona because developers want to keep expanding, and it's a desert. But they know everybody gets a nice yard, everyone gets a pool, but we don't have money for the homeless. It's insane. This is just unchecked, unbridled, out of control capitalism. You can't have a functioning society where a handful of people have all the money. And people are told you can just, if you get money, you get whatever you want. That's not a functioning society. We don't have a representative democracy, okay? And when a society that lets people, first of all, go homeless, that's offensive. Russia didn't, when I was in Moscow and St. Petersburg in 2019, I think I could count on two hands the number of homeless people. And they were all they looked like they were drunks, like alcoholics who had to live on the street because they had a problem. They were alcoholics, which is sad. But it wasn't that they didn't have housing for them. They did. They do have housing for them. These guys just wanted to live on the streets and drink. Their addiction has gotten so out of control. But I didn't see tent cities in Russia. Didn't see it. They're blocks away from my house in Santa Monica. It's out of control. And COVID only made it worse. But we had 100 new billionaires created during COVID. Weird. But we don't have money for the homeless. The tension came to a head just after 2 weeks after Bicking's death, when Tempe City Council voted on whether or not to expand the police budget by $2.5 million in order to hire 19 new officers. So this is the solution for homelessness. Don't take $2.5 million and buy an apartment complex that's for sale or is going out of business, or just build, you know what I mean? Don't do that. I bet you there's some apartment complex in Tempe that's going or bankrupt or something that they could just buy and turn it into housing for the homeless. I've talked about this numerous times. Finland did a housing first program because one of the things they realize about the homeless, you can't get a job unless you have a residence. An address, right? And you can't get a residence unless you have a job. So you're in a catch-22. So they had a huge housing problem over 10 years ago in Finland. And they got people, the government spent money to get them into housing. Food, clothing, job training, drug treatment. They had an 80% success rate. 80%. So let's say you got 10,000 homeless people. 8,000 of them get integrated back into society and you make people's lives better. Because one of the things they found, that it was actually cheaper to give people housing. The other current way, like we're doing, I'll just spend more money on cops, have the cops go out, clean up tent cities, push people out of the parks or whatever, that all that costs way more money than actually giving people housing. Over 100 residents attended the meeting to hold a vigil for Bickings and to demand that the city reject the proposal. Instead, the city council did the exact opposite and unanimously voted in favor of the budget expansion. This is the problem in America. The cops you don't need more cops and money. You need $2.5 million that could have gotten people off the streets. The negligence that led to Bicking's death and the blatant disregard for the overwhelming will of the people. So we're not a democracy. The people showed up and said, vote, 100 people. No, the city council voted against it. Isn't the disregard for the overwhelming will of the people is indicative of the injustice and humanity interacting every aspect of capitalist society, a tragic, senseless death. On the evening of May 28th, Bickings and his wife, Susan Smith, were sitting outside the Tempe Center for the Arts, just a few blocks north of Arizona State University, when they were confronted by officers who claimed to be responding to reports of a disturbance between the couple. Both Bickings and Smith cooperated fully and denied that any such disturbance had taken place. Yet the officers held the couple in order to run their names for any outstanding warrants. Concerned, Bickings stepped into the Tempe Town Lake and attempted to swim away from the situation. Oh, she's acting guilty. You're a homeless guy and the cops show up with guns. You're terrified. I don't blame you. He made it about 30 yards before he couldn't go any further. Struggling to keep his head above water, Bickings began pleading for help, shouting, "Please help me. I can't touch. Oh, God." Officers watched from the shore and did nothing. So they show up, harass the guy, and then when he goes into the lake, they let him drown. And for that, the Tempe Police Department gets $2.5 million and more cops. When Susan Smith saw the severity of the situation, she tried to intervene. She attempted to physically reach her husband, but was stopped by the officers. Let the guy drown. That is horrible. "Get off me," she cried in response. One of the officers had the gall to say, "You need to chill out." Growing more concerned, she shouted, "He's drowning, he's drowning." The other officer stepped in. "If you don't calm down, I'm going to put you in my car." You can't tell me it's a few bad apples. These cops are trained to have this psychotic, there's somebody drowning, shut up, get in the car. This person needs help. Oh, you're your problem. I've seen cops and they're just like dumb robots. They don't think, they don't have no humanity, and they treat people like crap, and as a result, people die. This fucking pisses me off so much. Smith was persistent and continued to ask for help, which the officers refused to provide. They let a guy drown. When put in a situation where they needed to actually do their jobs, put lives on the line to protect and serve their community, like the Uvalde cops who charged in to save those kids. Oh, wait, no. They sat around for 14 minutes because they didn't want to put their lives on the line. 14 minutes. A dozen or more trained officers with body armor and weapons and training couldn't go after one untrained live shooter, and kids died as a result. This is a sickness in America. They did nothing but stand around, watch, and patronize the victims and call on another officer to bring the boat to the lake. No, fucking swim, Smith begged her husband. "You're not helping," one of the officers quipped back. Bickings had dropped beneath the water and he never resurfaced. His last words was, "Can you hear me?" Bickings' death hit the Tempe community particularly hard because of the role that he played as a local organizer. A resident of the river bottom, an encampment of unhoused folks just west of Tempe Town Lake, he was a frequent source of inspiration and light in the life of his friends and peers. If somebody saw a cop drowning and did nothing, that person would go to jail. Why is this cop not going to jail? And any YouTube show that defends the cops or defends people like Rittenhouse is offensive to me and clearly has been bought out by their own success and has no integrity. But even beyond his immediate companions, Bicking was a force of positive change in Tempe at large. Just days before his death, he met with the mayor of Tempe, Corey Woods, to discuss the conditions faced by unhoused folks in the city. He was seeking information on how he and others could get out of their situations and build better lives. He even volunteered to be a liaison between city officials, nonprofits, and members of the unhoused community. Sounds like he was trying to pull himself up by his bootstraps and his community up by his bootstraps. Bickings also asked Woods if there was anything the mayor could do to help him with an outstanding arrest warrant. Days later, the officers checking for that very warrant became the impetus for his death. After Bickings' death, Woods claimed to be very sorry for the loss of Bickings, that he had mourned for him. Whether this is true or not is irrelevant as to what happened next. The Tempe City Council vote to expand the police budget by $2.5 million. How are we going to create a homeless outreach team when cops are killing our homeless outreach team? We all matter, said Candace Coleman outside of the city. So that's how we treat the homeless in America. We kill them. The cops aren't even held accountable at all. There's not even an investigation. Cops aren't even arrested. And then they get more money for more cops. Great. So now Tempe will have 19 more cops that are going to be trained to treat homeless people like garbage and let them die. If I was a cop, I would be offended at this. If I was a cop, I would turn in my badge after what happened to Uvalde. If I was a cop, I'd be like, I can't do this job when what happened to George Floyd, if I was a cop. If I was a cop and I saw the police wave Rittenhouse into safety after he had just shot 3 people, I would be offended and turn in my badge. Thanks for supporting what we do. You're the best and smartest fans in the world, and you don't follow cult leaders. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. $2.5 million is benefiting someone, not just the cops. There's somebody of them, they're making real money. And helping the homeless, they can't make money off of that. So that's why the cops get money. That's why we spend money on war. That's why our police get armored military equipment. They get military equipment. The homeless they can't even be saved. I don't know how these cops look themselves. Like, how do you as a cop let somebody drown and then go to work the next day? What do you come home and kiss your kid? Like, what do you do? How do you live with yourself? How do you live with yourself if you're a cop and you let this happen? How do you live with yourself? Don't tell me bad apples. This is a systemic problem. Don't tell me bad apples. That is a delusional way of thinking. That is crazy. You're in a cult. If you were a cop, you were in a cult. We're all in cults in America. We're all in some type of cult. So you were in a cult. You were given a tunnel vision. The cult is always right. The cult leader is right. Anybody that speaks out, you go after them. Anybody that leaves a cult, they always get attacked from cult members. Our police are a cult. Yeah. This sickens me. I'm embarrassed to be an American. And so should you. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom.